Another day, another in-depth review for Marvel Strike Force. Now I've managed to get lucky and I've unlocked Scarlet Witch already, which is really nice. I got some very good rolls on the orbs. I believe I got 20 out of 2 of them. So what we'll do when we're looking at her in this video is we'll firstly check out how you unlock her and we'll have a look at her tags. We'll then check out her stats. Next up it's the abilities. We then have a look at the synergies, and finally we see where she places in the tier list. But let's check out the general overview first. Scarlet Witch then I would say is the first true support character in the game, in that she can work so well with so many different characters and really mix up what they do and buff it. It's a really interesting setup they've got with her. Now when we look at her tags, you've got Hero, Global, Mystic, Controller and Avenger. So the useful ones here are Mystic for that campaign because there's some pretty good heroes locked behind it, and then also the Avenger tag, which we know is a very strong one, so anyone that has that pulls them up a bit further as well. Now in regards to unlocking her at the moment, it's just the Nexus Garden Legendary event. We've been told by the developers that free-to-play players should get a 2 to 3 star by the end of the event, and players that maybe have been playing a little bit longer, maybe put a bit of cash into the game, could get around about 3 to 4 stars. So that's quite nice there. Now what we'll do with the overview covered, we'll have a look at her stats. We start off here then looking at the offensive stats, and she actually does really well for a controller class. Now her damage is up at A, she actually has the same damage rating as Iron Man, which is pretty crazy considering he is a blaster class. Now her speed is at 107, so that's very middle of the road. That comes out at C, and when we look at her focus, she's actually got the highest focus rating in the game at the moment, which means that when you do apply any of the debuffs, they will stick to enemies, so that's great because she's all really about these debuffs. Now also in her kit, if that wasn't enough, she's actually got Pierce as well, and the Pierce takes up the full amount of damage on her skill, so this is really nice when you're going up against targets that have high armour. So nice start there for the stats. Now let's have a look at the defensive stats. When we look at her defensive stats, these are a bit on the lower side, but that is to be expected for a controller class. Now her health, that's way down at D. Her armour is actually F. Now her armour is the same armour rating as Kingpin, which is a whopping 0, so you will be taking the full brunt of attacks, and if the enemy does focus down on her, you really will notice that. Now her resistance is actually great, that's way up at A, and that would technically be A+, because she's got the 3rd highest resistance in the game. Now that's really good because Scarlet is all about applying buffs and debuffs, and you have to apply them at the optimum moment, so as long as you're not locked down by the enemy, then you've got a higher chance to actually do that there. Now with the stats covered, let's have a look at the abilities. We have 4 different abilities we'll look at here then. It's the basic, special, ultimate and also the passive. Now I'll show the tooltip at level 7 for the active skills and level 5 for the passive, and then I'll let you know how high you want to actually upgrade them, because crafting materials for upgrading your skills can be pretty rare these days. Now the passive that we start off with, this is called Power of Teuton. I'm going to call it that, I have no idea if that's how you pronounce it. Now with this, on turn you have a 50% chance to spread a negative effect from an enemy with a negative effect to an adjacent target, so that's really interesting there. It will not spread stun, so what negative effects will it actually spread? We've got a few here. You've got ability block, bleed, blind, defense down, heal block, offense down, and also slow as well there. Now one thing that could pull this down a little bit is that it may actually spread to a character that's just about to have their turn, meaning you don't get to take advantage of that debuff being on that character. So for that reason, I think personally I would take this up to level 3 and I would save my purple ability mats for other skills. For the basic, we have a skill called Hex Bolt. This is nice and simple, this one. So you attack a primary target for 160% piercing damage. That is really nice against high armour targets. And you apply 1 to 2 random negative effects. Now it's at level 4 that the negative effects jump from 1 to 1 to 2. So a bare minimum you would take this up to level 4. After that point you're only really gaining damage, so it's up to you how many materials you have, whether you take it higher there. With the special we have another really interesting skill here. So this is called Warp Reality. It's 5 turns to charge and it comes fully charged, so if you need the survivability it offers you can certainly use it at the start of a fight. Now with this you redistribute your total squad health evenly, so that works really well if you have a member in your team that has really high health. So let's say you've got Kingpin, Thanos, Hulk or even Drax, and they've got a huge health pool, and when that's distributed between all the characters that will give more to them, so that's something to bear in mind. Now also with this, when it's maxed out you apply Deflect to all allies. Now Deflect is a new buff we've recently gained, and Deflect gives you a guaranteed chance to block there. Now the great thing about it, it's a bit like Evade in that once your turn's over it doesn't actually wear off, it only wears off once it's consumed and an enemy attacks you, so it's a really nice new buff, this one. Now also with this you apply defense up to all allies, so it's really a pretty great defensive skill this, so for that reason I would say that you want to max this out. We have another really interesting skill here then with the ultimate, and this is called Chaos Wave. It does take a whopping 7 turns to charge, but it's fully charged, so if the opportunity arises you can use this at the start of a fight. Now with this you attack all enemies for 100% piercing damage, so again we've got the pierce which is really nice there, and each target has all negative effects prolonged by duration of 1, and the attack is also unavoidable. Now this works especially well with Vision, because Vision, when he casts his ultimate, if he's paired up with Scarlet Witch, he applies bleed to everyone, and then Scarlet Witch can go afterwards and add another stack to that bleed. Now other characters that I've played about with, I'll talk about this a lot more in the synergies, but one that I really like is Spider-Man. He goes before Scarlet Witch at the start of a fight, he applies 2 stacks of defense up to 4 targets, and then Scarlet Witch adds it up to make 3 stacks of defense down on 4 targets. Really pretty amazing there. Now in regards to how high you want to take it, I would take this particular one up to level 6, because that means that all negative effects are prolonged by that duration of 1, and all you're losing is a little bit of damage there. Now with all the abilities covered, let's have a look at her synergies. For the synergies then, when we look at allies that Scarlet Witch can work well with, I believe this is the longest list we've had yet, and this really reinforces the fact that she is a support character. Now starting off you've got Vision. A moment ago we talked about on the ultimate, when they're paired up on Vision, it applies bleed and then she can then add an extra stack of it, so that's really nice there. We then have Loki, and this comes down to his passive where Mystic controllers gain 50% speed bar at the start of a fight, so it'll help her get her attacks off even quicker. Now next up is Captain America. You've got the Avengers tag so she can be fed energy from him, but you've also got the fact that Cap has a high amount of block damage that he actually mitigates, and if we think back to Scarlet Witch's special that provides the Deflect, which has a guaranteed block, that can work really well with Cap, and any other characters that do have the higher amount of damage that they do block when that is successful. Next up we have Thanos and Kingpin. They work great alongside their special because they can spread out their large health pool across all your characters. And then finally we've got characters that can cast AoE wide debuffs, and then you can actually use your ultimate to add an extra charge to them. So you've got Spider-Man for the defense down, you've got Ant-Man for the slow, Doctor Strange, if he flips all the buff on a team and then Scarlet goes, she'll add another charge to all those debuffs, so that would be incredible. You've got Hawkeye with the AoE blind, Quake with the slow and also the offense down on her ultimate. Baron Mordo's up next, he fires off a ton of debuffs, so that can work really well. And then the final 3 characters we have here, these are more single target stuns, Black Widow, Wasp and Thor. But the amazing thing about a stun is that will gain a charge as well, so an enemy is not moving for 2 turns. Really pretty incredible, especially if you can apply slow to them as well there. Now with all that covered, let's have a look at the enemies you want to avoid. When we look at characters you want to avoid, firstly we have a group of characters that on their first turn can do a huge amount of damage and have a chance of actually taking her out. So that would include Gamora, Star-Lord, Loki, Deadpool. Now next up we have a character she actually pairs up well with but can be a threat to its vision. He's got higher attack speed than her, which means he goes before her and he's got the chance to apply ability block to her, meaning she's stuck using that rather simple basic. Next up we have characters that would be able to remove all the debuffs that she's put on their team and spreading. So that would include Jessica Jones, Scientist Supreme, and also Ronan as well there. So some characters we don't hear often, but it's good to see them having some use there. Now with that covered, let's have a look and see where she'll place in the tier list. So when it comes to the tier rating for Scarlet Witch, this is one that took me a fair bit of time. I really did struggle with this because if you look at her on her own and what she offers, she can be a little bit underwhelming, but the reason for that is she is the first pure support character in the game, and that was really backed up by the huge amount of characters we had that can work great with her in the synergies list. Now before we do actually place her, let me quickly run over the pros and cons here. Now I would say that her passive is a little bit on the underwhelming side there. You've got the fact she has 0 armour, so she really can get wiped out pretty quickly there if you're not careful about protecting her, and you've got the fact that she does require a fair bit of setup to actually get going. Now what does she offer that's great? You've got the damage, which is actually really pretty nice for a controller class. You've also got the fact that the damage she does has 100% piercing as part of it, so that's really great. And then you've got the huge focus and resistance, both of them were up at A rating. We have the new buff, Deflect, which is awesome really. And then you've got the defense up she can apply to all characters, and then finally you've got that ultimate and the huge amount of characters that it does synergize with. Now given how strong those synergies can be, such as the ones we were talking about at the end of the synergies section, like the stuns, 2 turns of stun is just really crazy, or with Spidey for example, 3 turns of defense down. It really is incredible. Now for that reason I would actually say that she is an alpha character. Now if the other characters weren't so strong in all the debuffs they were able to actually feed to her, then she would more than likely be a level 3 character, but double stun, triple defense down, really amazing. So let me know in the comments below how you're getting on with the farm for her, because I know I did get really lucky there. I can't believe it's day 2 and I've got her unlocked already, but my RNG is normally pretty bad, so I'm happy that it's hopefully taken a turn for the better. So thanks for tuning in, I'll see you all again soon.